I don't agree with that. And to be able to do that without falling out, because you realize that every word out of your mouth, you're not representing the entire race. It's important. Like I told him at the beginning of the hour, I said, you know what? Smiley was like, well, in the car, what's the difference between black studies and black colleges and black studies and white colleges? He didn't say, I said HWCU, you know me. But I said, well, I'll put it like this. Let me start by saying that in many ways, black studies departments are the black colleges of white schools. In other words, that's where black people go for whatever souls they're going to get there and whatever intellectual thrust. So it ain't like we're not related. I know all them dudes. I know all them sisters, they ain't no problem. The circles are small. But let's also be clear. Well, I'll come to that in a minute. Yes, but the idea that you have African champions and defenders and European or non-African saviors, in other words, working to create the space for African deep thought and African literature. They are there, so they have demolished who? The F word, fabricators. You done made up a tradition. There's people on this campus who teach like classes called like classical leadership and had no African on it. Like Africa doesn't have a classical period. That's not only indefensible, it's something you should engage, and then you don't have to change the syllabus, just add European classical traditions over, you know. Say, be honest, just be honest. Have the courage to be honest, at least. Okay, so, fabricators and who?
Collaborators.
They're collaborators. African collaborators or collaborators? And he says African, doesn't he? Does it? They're African collaborators. Anybody remember from reading Exchanging Our Country Marks, those of you who read Michael Gomez's work, The King Buzzard Story? What's the King Buzzard Story? Go ahead. Y'all hear in the back, that's shout a little loud. Right. The King Buzzard stories are stories that black people told in the Caribbean, in Latin America, and in North America to explain how did y'all get over here. Particularly, what was the role of other people who looked like you in, what role did they play in getting you here? Because you hear this kind of cadard, oh, black people sold black people into slavery. My thing is, you're right. Explain how. And we go, yeah, you don't know nothing about it, but you just repeat something you heard. Probably in elementary school. But there were black people who participated. And the King Buzzard stories, the range of them can be summarized very quickly. I was minding my business, and then somebody snatched me, and I was tricked or deceived. It was either a piece of red cloth or a shiny mirror or something. I stopped to pick something up. I said, next thing you know, I was snatched, and I was put in the belly of this ship, and we ended up over here. And the trickster is symbolized by the buzzard. Why is the buzzard picked? What does the buzzard do?
It's a vulture.
Scavenge. These are scavengers. And when does the buzzard eat? After everybody else. Meaning what? The buzzard is still a part of the animal kingdom, the bird kingdom, the living kingdom, but the buzzard is ostracized. The buzzard eats after everybody else because of the buzzard's action. The buzzard feeds on death. And these people that did this to us, that part of our community that did this to us, they feed on death. Look what they did. So you'll get to eat. We're going to put you out the family, but you'll eat last if there's anything left. And what you eat will be nasty. And then the interviewers who collected these stories in the United States for the Works Progress Administration, the WPA. Any of y'all ever read WPA work? Maybe English class, or maybe you read these WPA narratives, right? So yeah, we did that probably. So they asked me a question. They said, well, what question? Okay, so we understand now how you think about black people who help, but what about the white people? What was consistently the response to the interviewees? These people in their 80s and 90s now, it's 1930s. They went through enslavement, and the last generation will remember it, so they simply go around and collect their stories. So they were kids when they heard these stories, very young people. And they asked them, well, what do you think of the white people? What do you think they said consistently? And what is it? That's what it is. That's what they do. Don't think about that. The only act of betrayal can be from somebody you trusted in the first place. What about the whites? What about them? Yes. 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 you just made an important point. You made that point before. These interviewers were largely white. Most of them the average age of people in this room. They were young people who got a check from the Roosevelt administration to conduct these interviews. They got paid to go out and collect interviews. Right. You got an old black person sitting on a porch in Mississippi or Texas or North Carolina or Kentucky or Tennessee or Virginia, and you got this white kid 20 years old, 22 years old, or somebody 25 years old asking this question, what about me? What do you think this old black person who's been trained their whole life how to be invisible in plain sight is going to say? What about you, sir? Even if they leave the porch, they be like, this guy, what about me? Like I was going to say something. Well, I know it's the police. In other words, the same attitude we have is the same, oh no, you. The only reason I agree is because you were young. Age has a lot to do with it. So like, okay, I'm going to talk to you. But you're right, boy. Thank you. That will tell me everything. So let's think about this. Carruthers uses the word, born and raised in Texas, Jacob Carruthers, uses the word, died in 2003, age 75. Carruthers, 74, asks the question. No, he didn't ask the question. He used the phrase African collaborators. Why? Is he worried about the other collaborators? No. Because the African collaborators is active betrayal. The fabricators, we expect that. We ain't gonna argue with them. But you had a choice, Negro. You went to school and you know damn well that your mama didn't grow up that way, but then you wrote a whole book about the delinquent morals of the black community. You got in front of Congress and said that your whole set of morals caused you to look at your sister like she crazy because she was on welfare, Clarence Thomas. When she took your child in, because you had career ambition. You know you lying through your teeth when you got up there, but that Supreme Court seat looked just too good for you to pass up on. You're going to bring your whole family and put them on the altar. Like Abraham and Isaac. Ain't that who did it to the altar? Yeah. But what stopped Abraham?
The voice of God.
Charles G. Hayes, the Metropolitan Community Choir, said, Abraham, in the tree you'll see a lamb. Meaning what? You got 40 senators and lied on your family as if, old folks say, what God has for me is for me. As if they can stop you from that seat. Why you lying, you people, Clarence? You collaborate. At the moment when they come to you, don't you know we the land? We will tear down the Congress. Which is why, when after all that, they still won't go to the burn them, the Negro got there and said, this feels like a high-tech lynching. And all the Negroes said, it's a Tom Pump. But we still gonna stand with you. Because Kennedy can't save you, neither can Joe Biden. Why? The Republicans got the majority. We'll stand with you, Clarence, you punk. But we ain't never gonna forgive you, you buzzards. You eat last. You see how we go? We're gonna put you out. But remember what you said about you lied on your sister to get the seat. It's all good. Collaborators. African collaborators. So, the fabricators and the African collaborators are against the African defenders and the European saviors. And who won? Quote that quote? That's right, the defenders and the saviors. They won. They demolished the fabricators and the collaborators on that front. However, what's the challenge now? Next sentence. Now, thank you, we must rescue the victim from European philosophy and science. Meaning what? The victim goes to school here. And here too, in smaller numbers. European philosophy and science manifests itself in the curriculum. In other words, how do you organize knowing about yourself? At the university, knowledge is divided into academic what? Fields. Thank you. Disciplines. Name some. Right, psychology, the study of the mind. Is there such a thing as black psychology? Yes. You got black psychologists who do black psychology. Jules Harrell being one of the leading ones.